Call this meeting to order. It's an emergency meeting procedure bylaw, section 5.5. In the event of an emergency or extraordinary situation as determined by the head of council, the chief administrating officer, and the clerk, a meeting may be held as soon as practical following receipt of the summons. The summons may be given by manner as determined by the clerk. Reeve Bailey calls an emergency council meeting due to the COVID-19 situation. And I'm going to turn it over to Carson for the notice of emergency.
So notice of the emergency council meeting was provided to council by the Chief Administrative Officer / Deputy Clerk through email on Sunday, March 22nd, and notice was posted on the township's website, social media pages, and at the municipal office by the clerk.
Okay, so I call the meeting to order. Do I have a mover? I have Anita.
You don't need to move that.
Pardon me?
You don't need to move for
Oh,
that.
I don't even.
But call it to order at 101.
Okay, we started the meeting at 1:01. Call to order. Confirmation of the agenda that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby accepts the agenda for March 24th, 2020 emergency council meeting as presented. Now Anita. Seconder. I have Christopher. All in favor? Carries. Confirmation of the agenda.
You just
Oh, I just did
put
that.
disclosure of pecuniary interest before the reports.
Yeah. So disclosure of pecuniary interests. Seeing none, we shall continue. We're going to go to reports now. I'm going to read a brief report here. This is the public statement delivered at the emergency council meeting today. The COVID-19 situation is constantly changing, and we would like to thank the staff and the community for their patience, understanding, and willingness to be part of the solution. Self-isolation and social distancing are the key recommendations to reduce the spread of this disease. Staff have been carefully monitoring the local, national, and worldwide situation of the coronavirus situation, and we have been making adjustments to our service deliveries as necessary. Staff have also been following government announcements closely and communicating with the Reeve and the Deputy Reeve on a regular basis. In addition, there have been many discussions and conversations with other levels of government and health officials on how to limit the potential exposure to this respiratory disease. We have been communicating with and updating staff as information becomes available. Yesterday, Premier Ford issued an order limiting business activities to essential services, and today the province issued a list of essential services to be maintained. The order is for 14 days. As a municipality, we need to adjust our service delivery to comply with the order. Staff continue to be available by phone or email. As of today, all North Huron buildings and facilities are closed, and all outreach programs and activities have been discontinued. By midnight tonight, some staff may be directed to work from home to achieve self-isolation and social distancing. The landfill site remains open during normal hours with restricted forms of payment, debit or on an account. Committee and board meetings remain suspended. Provincial legislation has recently been passed allowing for electronic meeting participations during emergencies. Staff are in the process of reviewing the legislation and will be bringing forward a report to council for consideration. All in-person meetings with external individuals are to be held via phone or email communications. Travel policies have been in place for North Huron staff. Anyone returning from outside the country are required to self-isolate for 14 days. North Huron has also made temporary adjustments to our policies to accommodate the ever-changing environment. North Huron values its employees, and as an employer, we want to do everything we can to support them during these difficult times. In closed session today, Council will be asked to consider a proposal which aims at achieving a balance between the needs of the employees and the financial challenges of the community it is facing. In the coming days and possibly weeks, maybe months, North Huron staff will continue to monitor the COVID-19 situation, and we will provide updates to our employees and to the community as time passes. Thank you very much. Dwayne, did you want to add to that?
Thanks, Reeve Bailey. So I will just add that we received an email at 15 minutes ago advising that the County of Huron has declared a state of emergency as of 4 o'clock today. So that's just an update.
Okay. So 4.2, electronic. Sorry.
We did call Don Hayden and for the water and wastewater, so when, Dwayne, you wanna kind of give some context on that?
Sure. Thanks, Your Worship. So, as council will be aware, tax installments for the first are due March 27th of this, which is Friday of this week. So, in conversations with the other lower tier municipalities, there's been discussions in terms of what municipalities, how they want to proceed in terms of whether, basically maintaining status quo. Taxes are due on the 27th. And if you fail to pay your taxes at that time, then interest and penalty apply. Some municipalities have extended that March 27th date by a couple weeks to give members of their community some additional time to do that. And others, so in terms of extending the due date for the taxes, and then after that due date, interest and penalty would apply. And that extension has ranged again anywhere from a couple weeks to months. So at this time, the Director of Finance was on a call this morning. We've had discussions among the lower tiers on a call yesterday. Donna was on a call this morning, and she's asked if she could speak to this as well, and I believe she's going to be on the phone.
She should be on the phone.
You there, Donna?
Yes, I'm here. Dwayne, do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, with the Reeves.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Council. So with the water and sewer payments and the property taxes, it's really too early to tell what the long-term impacts are going to be, and we can make adjustments as necessary. As you know, everything's rapidly changing. So the tax bills and the water and sewer bills have already been mailed out, and the tax bills are due this Friday, the 27th, and the water and sewer bills are actually due today. So there's only been 4 people called to say that they can't make their payment. So I'm suggesting that we leave the March 27th due date for taxes and March 24th due date for water and sewer in place. And for anyone who has called in and asked for their payment not to be processed, then we did and we would pull those payments. Because if they're calling saying there's no money in the bank, then there's obviously no reason or it would make no sense to still process the payment. But all other payments we've received to date and all other pre-authorized payments would be processed as the payments come in. And as I said, unless they've called to remove their payment. So now the girls are saying that they're getting their payments in very well by online, and people are using the Dropbox. So it's good to know that the payments are actually coming in, but we won't know until after Friday. And plus, it takes a few days to process all those, so we really won't know, what the effect or how many people haven't paid. So there is no authority to write off penalty and interest at this point on a case-by-case basis. So if you're going to do it, you either extend the date and put penalty on either delay the penalty and interest to a later date, or you go ahead and put it on as normal. So when our payment due date is this late in the month, and as I said, it usually takes us till the first of the month before we actually add penalty and interest. So if you do want to give relief to your taxpayers and customers, then I would say to delay the penalty and interest charges to May the 1st and then reevaluate after that. If you don't wish to give relief, then we'll just process as normal. If you did want to go ahead with that, we would amend our interim tax bylaw retroactively on April the 6th to say that penalty and interest wouldn't be added till May 1st. And I heard Dwayne saying everybody's all over on the board on this. Some are just saying nope, no grace period, and some are, as Dwayne said, 2 weeks, 2 months. There's just no real consensus at this point. And the one thing I wanted to point out, though, is if you did decide to do this, it would only be for the current bill. People who had arrears owing from last year, this situation hasn't impacted them from last year. They already had problems. So our computer system is set up that it would still put the penalty or the interest on the old arrears if you chose to separate it out for this current billing. We were going to definitely have to monitor the June installment, well, not only the June installment, but monitor kind of every day from now till who knows when to see what's going on. But definitely, again, we'll have time after this to determine whether the June installment has to be pushed or what happens. And then we don't send our final tax bills out till August, so we do have some time, and who knows what could be happening by then. So we can make adjustments, so we're not pigeonholed into what we do today. With everything, as I said, it's changing so rapidly. So a couple of points, though. It's really important to encourage those that can pay to continue to pay. And again, important not to lock ourselves into commitments for long term because we don't really know what's happening. And as I said, there are on the webinar we were on this morning, there are some long-term solutions. Some of them, pretty drastic. We hope we don't have to get there, but there are things we can do. But we don't have to make any of those decisions today. So different municipalities are doing different things, and it basically comes down to we just need direction on whether you want to provide some relief or whether you don't think at this time that we would, but we would consider it for the future. So I guess we're just looking for direction.
Thank you, Donna. Questions, comments, concerns from council? Recommendations? Trevor?
Just remember to speak loudly so Donna can hear that.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that information, Donna. I'm not surprised that that there is all over the map on this. Everybody, depending on their municipality, is going to have a different, appetite to do this. At this point, we really don't know at this given time where this is going to end. I truly believe, based on the fact that, we have a significant amount of small businesses in town. We have a significant amount of manufacturers that in town that have changed their operating plans based on the province's mandates and the idea that social distancing and stuff is important to our overall health, not only in the long term but in the short term. So I'm definitely in favor of some type of relief, whether that's May 1st, June 1st, whatever. I think I will leave that for council. The recommendation I'm hearing from staff is May 1st, is what I'm hearing from staff. So, I'm okay with that, and then we can reevaluate in a month's time when that is the case. But I'm definitely in support of something to at least help. Because a lot of these decisions have been made by businesses over the last 1 to 2 weeks. And a lot of these individuals aren't sure when or if they are going to get money from the federal government or even the provincial government for that matter. So, EI is going to be backed up. We all know that. All these other support things that the federal government has put in, they're not going to happen tomorrow. And bills are going to continue to come, and we want to make sure that our ratepayers have the ability to use that. They shouldn't have to make a choice on whether they keep their house or feed themselves. So anything that we can do, I think, is a positive impact to our taxpayer, and I'm definitely in support of doing something.
Anyone else? I'm going to go with Anita, then Chris.
Yeah, I have a question. Does it have any influence on our budget? Do we have to wait till we pass our budget with this because there's maybe not much money coming in?
Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, so no, it's important we do get our budget passed, and at this very minute, though, I don't know what the impact will be to our revenue on this, because we don't know how many people are not going to pay. But to put it into perspective, and this would be a high number. So we had, last year, our total penalty and interest we collected was just over $60,000. So you could say $5,000 a month, but that includes like arrears from people who hadn't been paying as well. So on one installment, I don't know what the number would be exactly, but it certainly would, I would guess it would probably only be about, for people who, you're only talking people who don't pay. So anyway, it would certainly be less than $5,000 at this moment. But to amend the budget, there's going to be so many things, Anita, I can't even guess at this point how much all of this is going to change our budget for sure. So I think what we have to do is proceed and get the budget passed, and then certainly we'll be into intense monitoring, the whole year on the budget and make any adjustments in our spending to offset whatever revenue we lose, certainly as the year moves on. So I know that doesn't really answer your question, but at this point I don't know what budget amendments we would make, in order to, before we could pass it.
Thank you, Donna.
Christopher?
Yeah, through you, Reeve. I do agree that we should have a certain amount of relief, as you can call it that, and I think we should be careful that we don't extend it too far. A month, 1st of May, that would be max to me. I was thinking a couple of weeks, just because there's that shock and awe in society right now, and sometimes they're afraid, older folks afraid to leave their homes and things like that. So I can see maybe more time is required. I could certainly live with the month.
Right, Paul?
Yes, through you, Reeve. Yes, Donna, I can go with going to May the 1st, but not beyond. Just that it was almost up to the time that I think most people have had it budgeted out. So I'd say May 1st, and then next time, hopefully things are going to be getting under control.
Yes, and exactly, if I may, like if you wanted to pick something in between, that's fine too. I was just trying to look at the calendar and go, okay, well, if we we wouldn't really know by March the 6th or April the 6th, your next council meeting, sort of what the impacts are. We may know a little bit more by then, but then your next council meeting is until the 20th. So if you delayed it till April 21st or 2nd, you'd have to pass something on the 20th. Then you'd be turning around, and putting the interest on say late April, and then again on May 1st. So that's the reason why I picked May the 1st, just so that they wouldn't get hit with a double whammy there. And Julie, she is awesome. She just sent me a comparison from last year. So last year, in all things being somewhat equal, the penalty on March's tax installment for those who didn't pay last year was $2,200. Now it went up from there as the year goes on, because then, as people who didn't pay March didn't pay some of the rest of their ones either. But anyway, as I said, somewhere between it would probably add up to somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 by not putting this penalty on. But again, it all depends on who doesn't pay. So, but if you wanted to choose a different date, April 15th or something, I'm fine with that as well.
Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
Through you, Reeve. Donna, I'm in favor of the May 1st providing relief.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I wonder if somebody'd like to make and anyone else wanted to speak to this? I'm suggesting somebody could make a motion of,
I have a draft motion here.
He's got a draft motion, he's always one ahead.
So, sorry to interrupt. Just before the motion is, I just want to make sure that the motion should say something along the lines that the penalty and interest for the March 27th and March 24th, March 27th tax billing and the March 24th water and sewer current billing only, penalty and interest be delayed to May 1st.
Yep. Through your worship. So the motion reads as that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby delays the penalty and interest charges on the March 27th tax installment and the March 24th water and sewer payment only until May 1st, 2020.
Sorry, Carson, do you know what? I just thought of something else. So, it just came to my mind, sorry. There will also be then a water and sewer bill come out in April, which I just thought of. So would you include that in, or we have time, so I think we can discuss that one. If we had to, we could discuss that one at April 20th. I just thought of it this second, so sorry about that. So I would say just go ahead with that one, and we'll have time in April if we need to do something about the April water bill. So sorry, Carson, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Having heard what Donna just said, does somebody want to add the water and sewer April bill to it, or do you want to leave it as the motion stands?
What was the date on that?
Donna, the date on that?
They're not even billed out, and we don't even know, like now with everything, when we'll even get them billed out. So it was just something that just popped into my mind there. So, sorry, I would say we just leave it for now. We can deal with it in April as we know, if we even get the bills out, which I hope we do. So let's just carry on and deal with the motion as Carson has it, and then I'll bring back to you what happens with the April water bill.
Last chance for concerns or comments from council. Seeing none, I call the motion. All in favor? Oh, sorry.
You need a mover and seconder.
I have Chris moving. I have Paul seconding. All in favor? Carries. Thank you, Donna.
Okay, thank you. Do you need me any further then, Carson?
Nope. No, that's fine.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Bye for
Donna.
now.
Okay. I think now we're going to go into closed
No, we're at 4.2 now.
electronic participation during emergencies. Okay, I'm going to get Carson to speak to this one, and then we'll have a go at it.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in May of 2017, the Ontario government passed Bill 68, which is also referred to as the Modernizing Ontario's Municipal Legislation Act. And this made numerous changes to the Municipal Act, the Conflict of Interest Act, and the City of Toronto Act. And one of those changes was regarding electronic participation. And so basically, as of January 1st, 2018, municipalities had the ability to allow for electronic participation for open meetings open to the public if they amended their procedure bylaw. So basically, this allowed electronic participation in only open session meetings. It allowed council members to participate but they were not included as quorum, right? So you would still need to have 4 people here. And then also the extent of how they participate needed to be flushed out in the procedure bylaw. What was seen when this was enacted is not a lot of municipalities actually, there wasn't that much uptake for this because it was allowing for basically whole-scale participation for council members regardless of the situation, so it wasn't necessarily for just emergencies. So North Huron, like most other municipalities, did not, at this time, we did not amend our procedure bylaw to allow for electronic participation. And so basically, since this whole COVID-19 situation has started to rapidly occur, as council will be aware, on the end of last week, the provincial government passed Bill 187, which is referred to as the Municipal Emergency Management Act. And basically what this did was it made changes to the Municipal Act to almost fix the problems that that municipalities weren't exactly satisfied with in Bill 68. So at its simplest, what this bill does is it, under the Municipal Emergency Management Act, the municipality has the ability to allow for council, board, or committee meetings to participate electronically as they see fit when either a local state of emergency or provincial state of emergency has been declared. So as council will be aware, last Tuesday, Premier Doug Ford declared a state of emergency for the province, so then this would apply. And so to do this, what it does is it basically allows for council to participate in electronic meetings, and for those who are not present to be counted as quorum. So under Bill 68 legislation, you wouldn't be counted as quorum. So with our council of 7, 4 councillors would still have to be here in the council chambers. This new legislation passed gets rid of that, and so if everyone was participating through electronic means, everyone would still be counted as quorum. The other thing that's unique about this as well is, well, Bill 60 only allowed for open session. This allows for closed session as well. So say there was something where the municipality needed to immediately meet to discuss a closed session matter, this could also be done through electronic participation as well. The way to do this, again, similar to how it was allowed under Bill 68, is municipalities must amend their procedure bylaws, and it's important to note that meetings held electronically will still be required to follow existing meeting rules, and if the municipality chooses to adopt electronic meetings during emergencies, they will also need to determine how to best provide notice to the public, maintain minutes, and continue to make meetings open to the public. So what does this mean for North Huron? If council is desirous, basically our next step would be to prepare an amendment to the procedure bylaw. The one thing to note is that we wouldn't actually have to meet physically again. In this legislation, what the province did is your meeting to amend your procedure bylaw can be done electronically. So basically, when you're going to vote on whether to amend the procedure bylaw and allow electronic participation, you can do that electronically. But there are some things that council needs to consider and decisions that need to be made. I personally have been working this through with the other lower tier clerks, and there's still a few things that need to be worked out legislatively, logistically, and of course technologically in order to make sure we can support electronic meetings. For example, the biggest thing that we're trying to sort through right now is how to make sure the meetings remain open to the public and still use electronic participation, right? Because so say you were going to use a teleconference line, you wouldn't want to necessarily give everyone that teleconference line because you're going to see a lot of background noise and all that, right? But basically any amendment, it would need to speak to how the meetings are conducted in order to remain open to the public. So initially, my initial thoughts, there's 2 ways that could possibly do this. One is through basically live streaming from here where staff are still in the building, and then council calls in through the teleconference line, similar to what we just did with Donna. And then basically it's open to the public, as the public would be able to watch the live stream as it looks like many people are doing right now. The other option that many municipalities have kind of went towards is a product called Zoom, and it's a free product, but basically it's like almost like a live video chat, and it allows people to basically click a button if they want to speak, and then so we wouldn't need to necessarily be here. So as Dwayne mentioned at the beginning, where things are heading, it almost looks like a point where they might say anyone who's work from home kind of thing. So this would allow that, and basically it would allow for more controlled of who can talk at a time, right? Because anyone who's ever participated on a conference call, there's a lot of people who end up trying to talk at once, right? So that's something that needs to be considered. Also, how participation in votes are conducted right? My initial thoughts with that would be every vote is a recorded vote. This would be something that we'd specifically reflect in the procedure bylaw. So then Reeve Bailey, anytime he'd be calling a vote, he would ask each councillor how they voted, so it could be easily captured in the minutes. The other thing we need to sort through is notice requirements to the public, how the public would be able to, if it was Zoom, how they would be able to get into the Zoom meeting room, or if it's teleconference slash live streaming through eScribe. That's a little easier to give notice to the public. And then just the other thing that the amendment would need to speak to is the overall process of, in order to allow things to run smoothly and ensure they continue to run smoothly. So I guess almost 3 decisions need to be made. One is, does council want to go down this route with electronic participation? At this point, I guess basically your options they could be, you go down the route of electronic participation, or you continue to have meetings like we did today with the social distancing, or basically you would postpone your council meetings until you have something where it's absolutely pressing, right? Dwayne and I have been trying to forecast when something would be pressing, and I think we reached April 21st would be the one that we would definitely have to have a meeting. But Dwayne, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. The second thing is, so the legislation allows for some boards or committees to participate electronically as well. Again, these have to remain open to the public, because our boards and committees they don't necessarily have the capacity. We only have one teleconference line at this time. My recommendation would be that we continue to postpone any board or committee meetings, especially since a lot of our board and committee meetings, we supply the recording secretaries, and at this point we're stretched pretty thin with all the stuff going on with COVID-19. And then the third thing, I guess, is any other considerations that council feels we need to give to electronic participation. So for example, how we go about things might depend on stuff that in relation to your infrastructure, right? So if you have really slow internet, Zoom might not be the option for us, right? Or if you because you're going to be constantly disconnecting from the system, or if basically any thoughts or any consideration you want to give to that. So there's the other thing there that was attached with the agenda is the basically guidelines provided by the province, so that's a good resource tool as well. So
Thank you, Carter. I'm going to just touch on this because of the experience I've had for the last couple of weeks. I think it's a good backup. I would be afraid it would become a common. I think a get-together where we can discuss things is much preferred in my world. But it would be good to have it as a backup. Having said that, the staff is on overload right now, but by April we may wish we had it. If we have to bend a few rules in April, I can bend a few rules. Interesting. I have been on a few, as I said. Yesterday I was on a county, and it was Zoom. And I talked to Sue Cronin, got myself all set up, got my little button here, and that way they could see me wave. Yes, I agree. And if I didn't wave, went through the whole meeting, talked to Jim Ginn, we were all talking, all of a sudden we went into the meeting. So I sat there and I pushed the button and I see my little hand come up, and everything was working fine from my end till the end of the meeting. And Jim Ginn said, and he's the warden, said, Mr. Bailey, and I forget the name of the other counselor, if you're out there, we just want you to know we started the meeting with you, but you haven't been on the screen and we haven't seen you. So what the hell did I waste my time for? Because I'm kind of busy right now. So just so you know, as great as it may seem, when you really want it, it wasn't there. And yet at my end, I was watching, click, little hand waves, click goes off. I seen everybody would come up and screen when they were talking. Everything from my end was working fine. So anyway, I just want to put the 2 cents in there. I think it would be a great backup. My concern would be that every time there's 4 snowflakes, we wouldn't want to be using it, because in the world I live in, this is the way to do business. Having said that, I'm going to pass it out. Kevin?
Bernie, can I just clarify one thing?
Yep.
So through your worship, the provisions under this new legislation, it would if we enacted it under this legislation, electronic participation would only be for when a state of emergency has been declared either by the province or by the local municipality, right? So we wouldn't use electronic participation whole scale as what it was offered under Bill 68. We'd use it under the new legislation that was passed last Thursday, and basically it would refer to the legislation and we would set out that electronic participation is only authorized at the discretion of council when a state of emergency has been declared either locally or provincially.
Thank you, Carson. Kevin, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I agree with tagging on to that or using that legislation, but I think until such times as is required for by incidents locally, I think the social distancing that we have here now is quite sufficient. But I do like the idea of counselors being able to, if they have to self-isolate for one or whatever reason, or not able to attend during an emergency, that they can use through the telephone system. And I don't think it would be overrun if it's just one or two counselors missing. At that point, where you've only got two on a teleconference, the rest in the room. I think we should play it by ear to see how this plays out.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Trevor, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I have been living this world for the last 2 weeks, and you know, the technology's out there. It would obviously be a backup situation where state of emergencies are declared and that type of thing. There is nothing saying in the legislation, at least that I've read, that you have to have a video conference. So Zoom is a video conferencing tool. You can have a video. But Zoom is also a teleconference number where you can call a number and everybody calls into that number, not North Huron's number, to listen. So I think we have to be careful in the sense that, you know, there are people out there, companies, that this is what they do all the time. They don't have me. They have one person in China and one person in Wingham. So the technology is available. We shouldn't be scared of it. Use it to our advantage in certain instances. What I'm hearing, and I've had a couple of questions from the public as when this meeting was called, is the world is supposed to produce or practicing social distancing and self-isolation. Why are you not, as a municipality? And I'm saying, because right now we don't have a choice. The legislation doesn't allow us to not meet. We're working on that today. So, you know, if the Premier is telling non-essential workers to stay at home, and the municipality is trying to do that too, we as council should be showing the same due diligence in trying to stay away from each other. I agree, this is fine, works great, but if we're trying to tell people to stay at home, why are we saying that our job or this particular job is any different when we could do the job no different by video call or by teleconference or some other means? We have to practice what we preach, and I'm not going to argue the fact that when the essential list came out from Premier Ford, it was a hell longer than I ever thought it would be. I don't know what changed from yesterday to today because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of change. But we need to understand that the business of the municipality, this is a corporation that needs to continue to operate and work. But we need to make sure that we can do the job by practicing what has been preached out there, because all it takes is one of us to get COVID-19 or any issue like that, and then the discussion is, well, you should have did something sooner. You should have put this in place and at least get us through the hump. By not doing it when we have the ability to do it, I think we're sending the wrong message. So be careful about what message we're sending.
Go ahead, Anita.
Unfortunately, technology hasn't reached East Warner, so I won't be able to participate in video meetings. I can do the conference call, so I would appreciate if we make a choice to do that.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Paul, and
I'm,
then I'll go to you, Trevor.
I'm sort of for a conference call, so
Okay.
I was used to before, and
Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure everybody understands, it's not one or the other. When you use Zoom, it's not one or the other. You can have video conferencing with audio, or you can have no video and just call into the dial-in number that they provide you. So it's not just because the technology hasn't reached out to East Wabanach doesn't mean if we go to Zoom, you would lose that ability. You would not lose any ability, you just have to call into a number and get audio. You would only get audio, you wouldn't see video, obviously. So we could use it whatever the case. The argument is that you can produce that teleconference number to a wide range of people and potentially only give certain people the proper ID that they can actually communicate. So the public could call into the number, but they get a separate ID number that doesn't allow them to voice anything. They just hear what's going on, but nothing else. So I think that's what I'm saying. I think we have to understand what the technology means, because the province is going to be doing this. Bruce Power is doing, they're having video town halls and stuff. The technology is available, so let's try to use it. And I think let staff get that information to us. But I really, again, make sure that we're practicing what we are expecting our ratepayers to do, because if we're not going to do that, then in my mind, we're setting a bad example.
Okay, thank you. Christopher.
Yeah, I like what I'm hearing as well. I think we should practice what we're preaching, and but we do need to carry on the business of the corporation. So yeah, let's use technology as we see fit, and let us move ahead. I am concerned about myself. I have pneumonia.
Like to make comments? Would somebody like to make a motion?
Through your worship, so if I'm reading where you guys want to go with this correctly, the motion would read something along the lines of that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to prepare an amendment to the North Huron procedure bylaw to be passed at the April 6th regular council meeting.
In favor of?
In
favor of.
In favor for electronic participation.
I will move it.
Trevor moves it. Do I have a seconder? Paul seconds. Last chance for questions or comments. Go ahead, Anita.
So committee meetings, do we have to make a different decision about that? Can they just be postponed, or like economic development and the museum and those? Are we doing that separate, or will they have to use this technology as well?
I think at this point we've decided that there will be no meetings with them. If we did decide to reverse that, we'd have to put a motion through to reverse that and then allow them to go forward. And you're right, depending on how long this goes on, we would probably end up doing that.
Through your worship, so the motion passed at the March 16th council meeting was that all committee and board meetings be postponed until the next council meeting. So if technically this might be considered the next council meeting, whether it was it wasn't the regular one that we were scheduling, but it might, if council wants to make a decision on that, it might be prudent as well of whether to basically postpone them indefinitely until further notice, so that basically it doesn't have to keep coming up for a decision.
So we'll do this one first?
Yep.
Okay, so any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I call the motion. All in favor? Carries? Okay. Go ahead, Trevor.
I will make a motion to suspend all committee and board meetings until further notice.
Seconder? Anita? Questions or comments? Seeing none, I call the motion. All in favor? Carries. Okay. That's it for 4.2. We're gonna go to 6. Closed session and reporting out that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby proceed at 1:45 p.m. to an in-camera closed to public to discuss the following: personal matters about an identified individual, including municipal or local board employees, and labor relations and employee negotiations. COVID-19. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin, I have Anita. All in favor? Carries. Thank you.